Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make these bespoke pearl earrings. They are a gorgeous way to kind of make little spokes and make them personalized exactly for you. Remember, if you need any materials like the pearls or the bugles or seed beads, go ahead and look below the project. In the description, we do a full list there of the materials as well as links to get back to our site. Gather up your materials on your bead on it board and let's get started. To do this earring, it is very much so thought out the exact shape. You can also do this with 8/0 seed beads and go a little bit bigger if you want to. It gets a little heavy for the earring, but you can also use this for the pendant. To begin, we have 6mm pearls here, 8/0s, 11/0s, and 15s, along with some bugles that we're going to use for some stability. To begin, we are going to flip over our earring design here so you can see the 8s. And I'm going to put on one of my 6/0 seed beads here, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, size 6 bead, not 6/0. And we're going to do 5 8/0 seed beads following after. I'm holding the bottom of the thread and I'm going back through the pearl. That's going to put those 5 8/0s right along the side of the pearl. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, putting on 5 more beads. And then I'm going once again back through the pearl one more time. This really links it in. You don't have to worry about your tail after that. And you can see that we have gaps along the sides. That's intentional because we're going to be adding in extra 8/0 seed beads. We're going to go back through one side of our 8/0s here. And when your thread comes out that side, we are going to grab another one of our 8/0s and go down through our beads. We're going and connecting to the opposite side. And then once we get out the end here, we're going to add our final 8/0 bead. And I'm going to sew down through towards the base, finishing that circle. So I'm sewing around total here. And I'm going to let my thread and needle kind of pop out wherever you want. This doesn't need to be the exact center of the piece. That's totally fine. What we're going to do now is a 15, a bugle, and an 8/0. I'm using 3mm bugles. We're going to do a 15 and a bugle. And one, oops, need to get some more out of my Aztec Gold 8/0s. They're nice pale gold, that check finish. And we're going to add one of our Aztec Gold 8/0 seed beads right after our bugle bead. The needle and thread is going to come back down through the bugle, exit after the bugle here. Give a nice tight pull because you don't want to see any extra thread there on top. Add one more 15/0. So there's one 15 before, one after. And then we're going to sew over through the next 2 8/0 seed beads in line and pop out. Now there are 12 beads around the exterior of the pearl, and we are going to do this 6 times. 15, bugle, 8. Back down through the bugle, skipping over the 8 because that's going to hold it all in place there. As you skip over that, give a nice tight pull that you don't see any extra thread. Add one more 15 and sew through the next 2 8/0 seed beads. Now that I have this in twice, I'm going to continue adding 4 more of my little spokes here to my pearl wheel. Once you have all your spokes in, I'm coming out the last of my bugles. I'm going to add my 15, and then I go through the original 2 8s that my thread were coming out of. I'm going to sew up through the 15 that's on the side closest to my needle, my right side. I'm coming out the bugle, and I'm going to sew through the 8/0 seed bead that's there. And I just kind of look and see which way, right or left. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to take this galvanized Duracoat Pale Gold, and I'm going to add one 11, one 6mm pearl, one 11, and I'm catching on to all of my 8/0 seed beads. That's going to spread those spokes out. Again, on here and through. So we're going the whole way around, just adding 11 pearl 11. And we're going to do this a total of 5 times. The 6th time, we're going to bring it towards the top to change the pattern a little bit. If you do not want to change the pattern and you want it to be rounded like this 8/01, what you want to do is add a 15 before the 11/0. So it would go 15, 11 pearl, and that will get your spacing right. We're going to change it at the top to keep that nice opening there. From here, after your 5 beads are on, coming out that last 8-0, we're going to change the pattern for the top bead here. And I'm changing the pattern for the top bead here because I want a little bit more of a dramatic fall basically from the ear. So our pattern there is going to be 11-0 bugle and then our 15 and our 8. So it's 11 bugle, 15, 8 pearl. And at the top of the pearl here, we're going to add our wire guard. The wire guard that I've chosen is a gold wire guard, even though I'm using kind of silver, pale gold, gold for that nice, almost like frosty look. You're going up through your wire guard. You notice I pinched it together to make it sit on top of the bead. I'm going down through the wire guard and at the same time down through my 6mm pearl and my 8 OC bead. I'm going to give a nice tight pull, making sure that I don't have a lot of extra thread exposed. Add a 15, a bugle, an 11, and sew over through the 8 OC bead that's already there and out through your first pearl that you added. What that's going to do is get that to sit kind of right on the top there. From here, and it'll space out as we kind of go around the project. From here, what we're going to do is we are going to catch into the middle here and add our little V sections. We'll then decorate the middle of the pearl very, very last. To do our V sections, what we are going to do is we are going to grab 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 15-0s. Once you have 5 15-0s onto your piece here, we're going to get a little close and personal. You're going to go through the 2 8-0s that sit below. Kind of pushing those 15s down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back through the pearl. And at the same time, I'm going through the 11, the 8, the 11, and over to the next pearl. Now, what's going to happen as we do this is we're going to do 5 again here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as we do the left side of the pearl here. We're going through the 8-0 seed beads, making sure we're not going through any of the thread that's kind of tangled up below it. And here when we come to the opposite side, I'm going to sew back up through beads number 1 and 2 of the 15 row that is from the previous pearl. Then I add 1, 2, 3 more 15-0s to make it another group of 5 and sew back through the pearl and all the way over past the pearl, past the 15s, past the 8. Give a nice tight pull that pulls that into a V and exit through the next pearl. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads go on. You grab the 8-0s that sit below the pearl. Coming out then that second side here, you're going to go to the previous row of 5, sew up through beads number 1 and 2 and exit. And then through 1, 2, 3 more 15s and through the pearl again. So I've got a couple more of these to do. And just make sure when you pull, you're going to push it down. You'll see the bugles just ever so slightly through, but honestly not much. Make sure you're coming out that second, or sewing through the pearl, coming out the second side. Your 5 15s go on, which the last 2 will get grouped up to the next pearl. Going through the 8-0 seed beads that sit below the pearl. Turning it, going up through beads number 4 and 5 of the last row of 15s from the previous pearl. 1, 2, 3 more beads go on and through the pearl that your thread was just coming out of. Same thing here, one more time. And then I'm going to show you how we make that same effect happen on the top, which stretches this out. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 go on, down through the 8s, trying to stay kind of towards the top of them. And this is the reason I didn't put the 15s on yet to circle around the pearl. You don't need to if you want to see more of the gold. They just kind of get in the way when you're creating if you put those in first. Coming out after those first 2 beads, 1, 2, 3 15s get added. and then once again, back through the purl. Once you're back through the purl here, I want you to get ready to add another row of our 15s here, which is going to connect to the bugles. So we need to come out after the bugles basically. So we're going to take our needle and thread and we're going up through, and we're going to use this opportunity to reinforce the top of our piece. Going through the bugle, the 15, the 8s, up through the top here. When I'm up through the top, I'm going to go back through the wire guard one more time. I always want to go through a wire guard more than one time. The thread's really good and I trust it, and this is size 8 dragon thread. So it's a little bit thicker, but I always like to get that second strand, especially if I've gone back around through the project. That's even better. Coming down through, then you just want to make sure, I kind of pinch there, making sure that my thread sits between the little trough of the wire guard. Coming out, then I'm going to go out through the 15 after and come out through my bugle. Now you can see I'm on the outside of the piece. I'm just going to flip, or the underside of the piece, I'm going to flip over. Coming out through that bugle bead, I need to grab a couple more of my 15s. Coming out through the bugle bead here, you can see we're just going to do that same V. So 1, 2, and 3 15-ohs. This time we're going through the beads secondary. So I'm going through the, kind of moving them out of the way here, going through beads 5 and 6 after adding those 3 beads. And see how that lines up right there. I'm going to sneak over basically through the 8-ohs that sit below that V. I'm going to go up through beads number 1 and 2 of this row of 15. That's 1, that's 2. Add 3 more beads, 1, 2, 3, and go into the bugle right after the 11-oh seat bead there. As I do so, I'm also sewing through the 15 that's there. See that last little V there? I'm going to sew right over, skipping, going through my purl. You can if you want again, but I'm skipping right over through the 15 bugle combo. I sewed through the 11-oh there, down through the 8, and out the 11. And see how you get that nice top, and so pretty. Now what we're going to do is go in and decorate the interior. And to show you the interior without the 15-ohs versus the interior with the 15-ohs. Now that we're out of that section, I'm going to come down into my 15-ohs that sit right next to the purl. Coming out that 11-oh, I'm just kind of sneaking in there. I'm going to go down through the 2 15s that are conjoined and sew into my 8-oh seat beads. From here, I am looking for where is the hole in my purl. I'm going to sew through my 8-ohs the whole way over till I can find the hole in my purls, which is right there. So I'm going to go through this next one here, pop my thread and needle out, go through that purl, and once you're through the purl here, you are going to add in 8 of your 15s. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Once those 8 15s are on, you're going back through the purl from the opposite direction, which is going to put those 15s on the outer edge. Same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for a total of 16 beads. Back through the purl one more time again, and make sure you're doing this to the front side where your V's are, not to the back side where the bugles are. Once you have that on, you can see that there's still a gap. I'm going to take my thread and needle down through the 8 15s on the right. Then before going over to the left, we are going to add 2 more 15s. Remember in the start with the 8s, we added 1 8. We're adding 2 15s. And then we're sewing over to the left-hand side to go through the 15s there, up towards the top. Once I get to the top, I'm going to add in a 15. So we're adding in 2 15s there in that space, 1 and 2. Once you have those 2 15s on, it's hard to see, I know, you're going back over to the opposite side of your 15s. It kind of stretches that right there, pushes it down to the side, and halfway here, wherever my thread is coming out of, I'm tucking back into the 8/0 to pull that down towards the center a little bit, wiggling my thread and needle through there so it comes out somewhere along the back. Easier said than done. I can take it to the back if I need to also. Come on. There we go. And the reason I'm bringing it out towards the back is because all I have to do yet is tie on the thread. And that just pulls those 11s down, pulling that one simple thread towards the back. Here at the back then, look, I came through right at the right spot. I'm going to take my thread ends and simply tie them in a knot. Right over left, left over right. One more for good measure. Switching hands here, the way that I hold. That's the back of the piece, which is also beautiful. You can see the use. You can kind of decide which side you want it on, whether or not you want the intense 15 or whether or not you want the more gold and that opalescent, the bugles. Burn those thread edges down towards the project. My battery's dying here, I can tell. And then flat down towards the project itself. Once you have that burned down, all you need to do is put it onto your ear wire, or even like me, I'm going to take off my ear wire here, put this on, snap it on to finish it off, and those beautiful pearl drop earrings can be worn and are super, super festive with that wheel pearl. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these bespoke pearl earrings. They really are beautiful in person, and I can't wait to see all the different color selections. Remember also, you can switch and use any 6mm bead for this project. If you need any materials, look below the video in the description for links there to get back to our site. If you haven't already, give this the video a little thumbs up and comment and tell us what videos you would love to see from Potomac Beads. As always, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational videos.